Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are and wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, a creative content right here in Chesterfield. I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, a lot of times I get to do episodes of the podcast where, you know, we're talking about the budget, we're talking about like stuff that, you know, is important for folks. And I really enjoy doing those shows, as I was just telling our guests. But you know what? Doing something that's kind of current event, doing something that's fun like this, I'm really excited to welcome Tameka Stephens, a Chesterfield resident and a recent contestant on the Wheel of Fortune. First, Tameka, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Obviously, you have had a whirlwind. You know, I don't know if I don't know technically yet when you actually recorded the episode. Before we get into that, I want to I always start with a little bit of an intro to give folks who are listening, folks who are watching, the sense of like who they're hearing from. In this case, Tameka is completely not related to Chesterfield government at all. So I guess tell the folks a little bit about yourself, Tameka, and how it is that you came to be sitting across from me today.
Sure. My name is Tameka Stephens, and I am a Chesterfield resident.
Uh-huh.
I would be remiss, however, if I didn't mention that I was actually born and raised in Tidewater area.
Okay.
Hampton, Newport News.
Yeah,
absolutely. Lived in Roanoke for a little bit, and then I moved to Richmond here 2017. So I've been in the Chesterfield, Richmond area for quite a few years. I'm employed with the Virginia Department of Social Services.
Okay.
Just celebrated 10 years.
Okay, great. Congrats.
Definitely love what I do, but in my spare time, I love game shows.
Okay.
English and grammar, those are my jams.
Okay.
So the opportunity to appear on Wheel of Fortune just, I'm going to say, fell in my lap. You know, I had to apply just like everyone else, but it just seems that it just came so easy and effortlessly.
Right.
Some call it luck.
Yep.
I call it favor.
There you go. I like that because, you know, what's the adage, you know, the Lord takes care of those who take care of themselves. Like sometimes luck is self-made, right? And so you get into this position to be on the show. Before we get into the actual experience of being on the show, I want to talk through a little bit about the process of even, you know, being selected to be selected, as I told you earlier, because it's fascinating to me that, like, you know, it's not, you know, people who, you know, play the lottery or whatever, they just, you know, went into a 7-Eleven, right? But there's a long process that you had to go through to be standing there spinning that wheel. Talk to me a little bit about sort of how you came to be on the show. Was it something that you mentioned, you know, your love of game shows. Was Wheel of Fortune always your favorite? Like, how is it that you decided that you wanted to go into the process of trying to be on the show?
Wheel of Fortune has always been my favorite. Okay. Just the fact of being able to spin the wheel and get money really fast. A legal way to earn fast money, right?
Right.
So my grandmother watched it for years, and she would just, 7 o'clock was her cutoff time for family. She loved watching Pat and Vanna, and not so much as the aspect of them spinning the wheel. She just loved their interaction.
Right, yep.
She got so tickled. But my husband and I spend so many evenings watching Wheel of Fortune. We cut everything off at 7. Right. And if we got to go get dinner, it's after 7:30 when the wheel goes off.
That's funny.
So I have whipped him number of nights. And he always says, honey, you need to apply. But, you know, why me? They're not going to pick me. Right. You know, I'm just good here sitting at the living room. Right. So he's probably been on me for over a year. Okay. So this year, June 1st, I think I dominated every single puzzle, beat everybody on the show. Okay, yeah. You know, so he said, you know, you need to apply. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Okay. I got up, got my computer, and I applied. And they did want you to do like a video, like send a video or something like that. I was so not confident, I didn't do that. Okay. So I submitted the application, closed my laptop. All right, I did it. Right. Be quiet. Yep. Leave me alone.
I'm all done. Right. I did what I got you.
June 7th. Okay. I got an email and it said Wheel of Fortune. And of course I thought I was being scammed. Like this cannot be true. Like, wait a minute.
Okay. I can't even tell you how much I love that like the actual Wheel of Fortune show was reaching back out to you. Like, this has got to be fake. I love it.
It's got to be fake. Great. I'm like, okay, scam. So, because I was almost kind of curious to see. Right. I opened it up.
You had to make sure, right?
Yes. Opened it up. And of course, you know, we want you, you know, basically schedule you for an audition. Okay. So I did it. Mm-hmm. Called my husband. He says, I told you. So, you know, got to give him his couple props, seconds of props.
That's right. Give him his flowers.
Yes. So did the audition on June the 12th. Okay. It's a 5-minute audition with the producer, and it's basically 5 minutes.
So is it like a voice call?
It's virtual.
Like okay. So you're on a video chat essentially.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And I got up that morning dressed up like I was going to a job interview.
Okay.
Hair, makeup, everything.
Right.
Wanted to look good for the producer. But when I left her, I said, "America's going to love me."
Okay.
And 5 minutes. She didn't say too much, but it was basically, "How are you? What do you do? Tell us about yourself. Thank you. We'll be in touch."
Okay.
I felt pretty good after that one.
Right. Yeah.
And then June 15th.
So 3 days later. Got
an email. We want you.
Okay.
This one is for an interview.
Okay.
So now I'm screaming because, in my gut, I'm saying I'm going on the Wheel of Fortune.
Yep,
I was just so convinced at that point, if you get me here to an interview, I know I can nail it.
Right.
So scheduled the interview, and I selected the day for my interview, which was the day after Father's Day.
Okay.
So that was my first Father's Day without my dad. He passed away last year, September 9th.
Okay.
So that interview was a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
It was virtual. It was with one of the producers, but this time it was with about 4 other potential contestants.
Okay.
So we were playing puzzles against each other.
Okay. So you kind of almost had like a tryout, so to speak. That's really interesting. Okay.
Yes. So, and they were good. I'm telling you, they're better than my husband. I tell you that much.
My man got his props a few minutes ago, and now he's catching bows. I got it. Okay.
So now I'm getting some competition.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, Tameka, you may not be as good as you think you are.
Right.
So after you do the competition with the individuals, then they move you over to another room where it's just you and a producer, and they flash about 15 puzzles for you to guess. And that was hard. Okay. But I think they just wanted to kind of get your feel of how you sound it out or how you're interacting. If you don't know what you do when you don't know.
Right, yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
It is.
So it's not just like who can answer the puzzle the fastest. It's also like when they're answering the puzzle, how do they go about, is it an entertaining watch for the viewer?
Yeah, right? I probably, because the producer goes off the screen, so it's just me and the puzzle on the Zoom. Right. And I'm telling you, I was laying those puzzles out like, what the world? And they only give you a couple of letters. Nothing like the TV. But anyways, so after I got off that call, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I did. But that was June 15th. Mm-hmm. July 10th. No, my interview was June 19th. I'm sorry. Yeah. July 10th. I got my congratulations email. Okay.
And so so you've gone through this process, right? You've had your interview, you've had a tryout essentially, and you said from the 19th to the 10th. So I mean there's some time in there. What were those days like where, you're trying not to think about it, but at some point they're going to either say yes or no. What was it like to kind of wait for that answer?
So I overthought the entire process. Google is your worst enemy. Right. So I Googled everyone, what happens while you're waiting to see if you made it, right. All kinds of Google options on there.
Right.
And, some people say they've been waiting a year. Some people say they've been waiting 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And all of that good stuff. And I'm looking at the time frame from my audition to the interview. Mm-hmm. So I just decided I'm just going to, wait and see. Right. Because they said, now is the hurry up and wait process. You kind of and it could be a year before you hear anything.
Right.
So that day, and it was funny because my oldest son was calling on the phone. Uh-huh. And when I went to pick up the phone, I saw the little subject line of the email up top, congratulations. And I started screaming before I could even say hello. So my husband's like, what? But he said he knew what it was. But it said, congratulations, you have been selected. Unbelievable.
Okay. So you get the email, and I'm guessing the email has some really, specific steps. All right, here's what you got to do. Did they have a date already picked for you?
Yes.
Okay. And so how do you go about the process once you get the email that says congratulations? What's the next step then?
Scream.
Okay.
And scream some more.
Scream a lot. Just scream and scream.
So it was July 10th, and it says, dear potential wheel contestant. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like potential.
Right. So do you didn't probably at that point know if you had another step right before you
So, and it came with a whole lot of stuff to read and go over. But the big part in the middle says you've been selected as a potential contestant on the rail tour, July 28th.
Okay.
Now, mind you, it's July 10th. and you've got to get to California, and you've got to pay for your own expenses.
Right.
Okay. So
we got to make some plans
now.
Pulling out some flights.
Yes.
You got to go. Right?
Yes. And typically a comfortable flight, you're able to book it in advance, but you're talking about flying to California, so it's a little bit tricky. But we were able to. So they give you 4 tickets for family members or friends, whoever.
Right.
So 4 other people could have gone with us. So got on, found some, decent flights. Only my oldest son and my husband were able to travel with us.
Okay.
So we did all of the arrangements, the going and coming, and we decided that we were going to, kind of see California while we're there.
You might as well. Yeah, might as well. You're already there, right?
Sony does send you discount rates for their preferred hotels, which was really nice. So we booked the travel.
I mean, they could have sent a flight ticket too, but
I'm telling you. But I kind of realized that it could be a logistical nightmare.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah, that's true
for them. And so they send 21 people to come and tape on that day.
Okay.
Only 18 are selected.
Okay.
So that was what I read in that. So that's why they say potential.
Right. So they basically have a whole game's worth of people who come all the way out there and then don't even get to be playing the game.
It's 3 people that don't get selected.
Wow.
So my logic or my thinking is travel. Delay, and somebody may not be able to make it, so you have an extra person. Right. Somebody may get sick. Somebody may get sick.
COVID world, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. So all right, so you book your flight. You're gonna go. You get there. Obviously your nerves are probably through the roof. All the way from the time that you were screaming until you got there. So the day of, take me through what it was like to sort of, I'm guessing, show up and walk backstage, and did they give you a tour first? Like, what was that day before the actual game like?
So the day before, believe it or not, our flight was delayed.
Okay.
So flying into California. Well, let me go back. I'm sorry. July 28th, taping was canceled.
Oh, okay.
On July 27th, I got a call at 6:00 p.m. from the producer. And when it came across the call ID, I said, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
And she says, "Tameka, I've got some bad news. We're going to have to cancel your taping for tomorrow. Don't know what's going on. Sorry.
Right.
We really loved you, but hopefully we can get you back out here."
Oh, wow.
So I actually did not tape on the 28th.
Wow.
Yeah. I was devastated.
I bet.
So, and I'm looking for, I've got to call.
I feel real bad right now for past Tameka, who didn't know that Tameka was going to be on the show. I feel real bad for you.
It was like a bad breakup.
Absolutely.
But, so.
I never liked Wheel of Fortune anyway.
I wanted to say it, but it felt like a bad breakup. I'm like, and no answer,
Right, yeah.
Only to find out Vanna tested positive for COVID.
Okay.
So the taping where the teacher, Miss Blue, was doing it for Vanna, they had already arrived on set. So they tape 1 week of shows in one day.
Right.
So Miss Blue was there. So they, instead of, canceling that, they had her act as Vanna, but they canceled all the other tapings.
Gotcha.
The next day, so on July 28th, I got an email. Congratulations, you've been selected for Rail Tour August 8th.
Oh, wow.
So I canceled one flight, so I had to go back through the process.
Do the whole deal, right?
All right, so now back to your question. On August the 7th, we flew out, got ready.
I'm guessing the whole time before you actually fly, you're like checking your email, hoping somebody else,
Oh, man, you talking about PTSD.
Right?
Like, waiting on somebody to say, this isn't real.
Never mind.
Because I kept saying, this can't be real. This can't be happening. So
Right.
the day that we flew out, the pilot didn't show up.
Oh, my gosh.
So our flight was delayed.
Oh, my gosh.
Missed the connecting flight in Charlotte.
Oh, my gosh.
We get to Charlotte, and American Airlines says, we don't have any more flights going out to California today. So I break down in tears.
I'm sure.
I break down in tears.
Again, I'm real sorry for Past Tameka, who didn't know she was going to be on the show.
So there is a history before you saw the smiling and all that kind of stuff. You
had been through some stuff.
I have been through it.
Yeah.
So I can understand why Wheel of Fortune, why they don't do the tickets, because it's just so much logistically,
especially this day and age.
All right.
Makes sense.
So back to your question. All right. So the day of the taping, you get there, and I think we arrive at 7:00 Central Time.
Okay.
And immediately you turn your phone off. No pictures, no nothing. You turn your phone off.
Yeah. Because basically and I'm guessing you signed a lot of paperwork that said essentially. A lot of paperwork. From that point until after your show aired, you essentially, you weren't there.
A lot of paperwork. Yeah. So we could tell, you could say that I'm going, you could say that you're going to tape.
Right.
But what they discussed at the briefing on the day of the taping, like at 7:00 when we got there, it's paperwork. Then an attorney comes in. And the attorney comes in and he basically tells you, to protect Sony, to protect Wheel of Fortune, these are the things that you can do and what you can't do.
Okay.
And the one thing that stuck in my head is do not discuss what happened in Vegas. What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. So that was the one thing that I held on to. And only, I guess for one lady, she was able to use her phone, but for everybody else, you had an escort around the studio. We practiced that morning in the Jeopardy studio, spinning the wheel. That wheel is heavy.
Oh, interesting.
That wheel is heavy.
See, I always thought it was like, I guess I always thought it was lighter than it looked because that way everybody could spin it. But that's really interesting.
That wheel is extremely heavy and caught me by surprise.
Right.
So when they give you a list of what you can wear, what you can't wear, what you can bring and what you can't bring, I understand. No long earrings because that wheel is heavy and you don't want to get your microphone, all that kind of stuff stuck while you're trying to manage it. So you did makeup, hair, practice, paperwork.
So they didn't. So you got to choose what you wore. They didn't give you a wardrobe or anything like that.
They don't give you a wardrobe, but they're very specific
about what you
can't you can't wear.
Right. They're very clear about what you're not supposed to. I got you.
Right.
Okay.
And then they drew names, and I was determined. I was going to be in the 18. I knew. Once I got to the interview part, I'm doing it.
Right.
And it's really weird. Kind of vision that I had when I walked in the studio, the Wheel of Fortune studio.
Yeah.
I was just so overcome with emotions trying to fight it back because they had done my makeup so nice. I actually saw myself in the middle platform.
Okay.
Which is the yellow spot.
Uh-huh.
So when we went into practice, I was in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And I said, okay.
Yeah.
I got a really good feeling. And I kept saying, I've got a good feeling about this.
Right.
And the lady that did my makeup, she did Alex Trebek's makeup.
Okay.
And she and I shared a very intimate conversation about Alex Trebek, who is just such a sweet guy. And, definitely legacy, there in Sony.
Absolutely.
She got really teary-eyed. But anyways, she did my makeup. And I said, I've got a really good feeling about today.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward when they picked our numbers and they said, Tameka, you're going to be standing in the middle. You
just sort of knew.
I just knew.
And then at that point it was just go out there and answer the question, pick the right letters and I'm guessing as you went through the game, how much of it as you're there, in the middle on the yellows, how much of it you're trying to be back on your couch just answering the questions and not think about all of the stuff going on around you with the lights and the cameras and there's still a studio audience, right? Like they're obviously people, your family in addition to other folks who are just watching.
Yes.
So how did you sort of go? What was your mindset for the gameplay once you finally got to the place and you're like, yep, I'm gonna play the game? Did you go in with like a plan? What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, my plan was not what happened because it's a totally different ball game once you're there.
Right.
And I promise that I will never judge anybody from the comfort of my chair. And I encourage all of Chesterfield, don't do it because it's so different being there. I was extremely nervous. You've got the lights, you've got the producers, you've got the makeup people coming because, I shed a tear and, they want to fix you up real quick. And it's a lot going on.
Right.
And you want to remember everything that you've been told. And, I don't want to look bad on national TV.
Right.
I don't want to make my family look bad, right. And, so it's very unnerving. But, I kind of, said a quick prayer. I'm not kidding because when they started that countdown and said, and we're going live.
Right.
And I'm still saying, is this real? Right. I'm not convinced. I'm still not convinced. And they start the countdown and then you've got to remember literally, number one, stay calm. Number two, remember everything that they told you.
Right.
And, take a deep breath and go for it. Right. And, it's like, Tameka, you got it. You made it here.
Yeah,
I got to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, do they tape it in real time? And what I mean by that is, obviously, it's taped beforehand, so you don't have to wait X number of minutes and seconds for a commercial break, right? You can stop and then start. How long did the taping sort of take?
22 minutes.
So it was exact. So it was
22 minutes. 22 minutes for us. And what's so neat is when you guys go to commercial, we're going to a wrap up, know, and they're like literal coaches. Good job, Tameka. Tameka's dominating. It's still time on the wheel. We still got time. This time, guess more vowels. And so that is a strategy. So when you're watching going forward, you'll understand why people are calling vowels, because that's what they encourage us to do.
Right.
Call your vowels first. That gives you a better chance of solving the puzzles. A very good strategy. Yeah. And I use that.
That's why my Wordle word every day it has 3 vowels in it. All right. So you get in there, it's going well. And the writing is kind of on the wall, right? Like, I'll snap. So you're the winner. Okay. At that point, you had to have had like the most surreal feeling. So it's like, all right, yes, I was selected, and yes, I did the interview, and yes, I came out here, and I'm actually on the okay, yes, and now I'm gonna do the thing. What was it like going into the last? Like, I can't even imagine what you must have been feeling.
So I have to back you up to the puzzle that I missed.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I missed Legend in the Making.
Okay.
Or A Legend in the Making, I think it was. Uh-huh. You got to stay focused.
Yeah.
And I will have to admit, I lost focus for 2 seconds because I knew what was at stake. It was a bonus, but it's a prize puzzle. And I knew if I didn't solve, somebody else could potentially come up and steal my lead. And if you'll notice on that particular segment, I spun the wheel and immediately guessed a letter. So they've got this nice little used letter board over to your left that you can look at. I didn't even look there. And that was my strategy also all night. So I picked that S, and I knew I should have asked for the G. So unfortunately, I missed that puzzle.
Right.
I missed the trip, which is fine. I still, when I got to that last puzzle, it was personal.
Right.
It was personal, game on. I'm so competitive. Game on. So going into the bonus round, when I guessed construction foreman, that was when I started crying.
Yeah.
Because at that moment, everything just kind of comes full circle.
Right.
Like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to go on and win, a whole lot of money. My goal was $1 million.
Right.
But what just warmed my heart was, with everything going on, I look over to my left and I could see the producer walking my husband and my son down.
Right.
To come to the stage, and we had talked about this, and just in laughing, like, what if I go, what if we go on stage, and my husband's like, well, I want to make sure I look good before, in case I go on TV, giving him his props again. So, he spent a little time making sure, I want to make sure I look good.
Right.
So that, emotionally was just so overwhelmed. So I had a really bad breakdown. So they had to call, we took a good break for them to pull me back together and just get back to to the puzzle for wheel. So the producer that was on the floor, the main producer, he's from Jeopardy, and they were helping because of course the writers are on strike.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked at him. I said, "Is this real?" And he says, "Tameka, it's real, and you're killing it." So 2 seconds for me to learn how to spin that wheel. You do literally 2 seconds. Spin the wheel. Are you okay? You got any questions? All right. And then here comes Pat. So everything's moving so fast.
Right.
So my thought at that time, is, all right, Tameka, you've come all the way from Virginia.
Yeah.
You've been chosen.
Right.
You've got to do it.
Yep.
Take a deep breath. Focus.
Right.
And when Vanna starts turning the letters, I already had in my mind the letters that I was going to pick. Right. And
because I feel like that would have been my whole entire plane ride.
Yes.
I would have always zoomed right to the end and been like, these are the ones I'm going to choose.
Yes. So just the placement of the letters. I knew there was a G in there somewhere. I was going to ask for an A for my vowel, but I chose O. Because the puzzles that start with the vowel are a little bit more difficult to pick.
Right.
I mean, to solve. So I'm I'm telling you, she turned that, I think when she turned that final O, and I was like, okay, Tameka, do not fall out. Tameka, do not faint. You got it. You got 10 seconds. And when I said overdue for an upgrade, I thought my knees were going to buckle, but I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
And then, so obviously the emotion, I mean, you had already, and you, as you so eloquently described, you just, the feeling of just, and all of it. What was that? Let me rephrase it this way. Do you remember even having a thought in that moment? Because I can imagine everything is such a blur.
I didn't. And if you go back and look at that clip, it's so funny for me to watch because I started jumping and I didn't even know what I want. And Pat's like, what are you jumping for? Like, you don't even know what you want. I don't care.
That's right.
I did it.
That's right.
I did it.
Right.
So to date, I am the second bonus round winner of the season.
That's awesome.
So just proud to be able to experience that with my husband and my son, and my family. So many people watched, and my family in Newport News and Hampton had a big watch party.
Oh, fun!
In Newport News at Bowman's Soul in the Wall. So my husband and I were actually on a cruise, pre-playing before wheel. Not wheel related, I promise.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible. So, that's so good that you weren't even able to. But I'm guessing everybody and their brother taped it for you.
Everybody taped it, yeah.
So, real quick, obviously, this is Pat's last season, right?
Pat's last season.
So the idea that you got to, have what I would call like the real experience, right? No shade at whoever, whatever. But like this, it's Pat. That's what you want, right?
Yes.
But then, in addition to that, you had a good bit of time after this happens. This like life-changing, incredible thing, and you couldn't tell ananybody.
I could not tell anybody.
What was it like to kind of keep that inside, just the three of y'all?
So,
well, I guess could you tell your other son?
No.
Wow.
No spoilers, because here's the thing, even if my oldest son wasn't there, I wouldn't have told him because he would have said, all right, mom said don't tell anybody, so don't tell anybody, and then that person says, well, don't tell anybody. Yeah. That kind of deal.
It's a slippery slope.
It is. And it was very difficult, especially not to tell my mom.
Yeah.
My mom and I talk all day, every day.
Right.
And she's literally my best friend, and I couldn't tell her.
I mean, you were contractually obligated.
Obligated. And I wanted her to be able to see what I did, with the rest of the world.
Right.
And I was able to zoom in from the ship. To their watch party, and I was just, I was just so overcome with emotion watching my family and friends watch me on national TV. Right. It's just been amazing.
Yeah. So you keep the secret. It actually happens. It's great. Everybody that sees it. What's it like to go back to like normal life after something like that?
So I tell them, like, y'all are not going to treat me like I'm regular. Do not treat me like I'm regular.
That's
so when my brother talks to me mean, like, don't talk to me like I'm regular.
I did a thing. You know that?
I did something. America, you saw it. It's I'm almost an introvert. I'm an extrovert, but I'm an
extroverted introvert is what they call us.
I am. So, I'm very shy, very humble. When people talk about it, sometimes I get a little, little uncomfortable, but what I have realized, life is short. Yeah. Just enjoy every moment as it is. Right. When people want to congratulate you, celebrate you, let them do it. Yeah. So at this era in my life, I just turned 50 in March. Okay. So I'm just about celebrating, having a good time, enjoying. So if you see me outside and say, hey, that's the lady from Wheel of Fortune. Yep. I truly love that. But I've gotten some really, really good messages from people that I don't know that said that they were just so touched and impacted by my performance. Right. So if I can touch anybody and bring joy to their family, right, just for that one evening, then my life is not in vain.
Yeah, I hear that. It's funny, you kind of stole my last question there at the end, so I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball and make this the last one for you. Is there something about, you mentioned how heavy the wheel was. Is there something about the experience of playing the game, being there, that maybe folks don't know, can't know because they haven't been there, that you want people to know, like something that might be, like you said, the weight of the wheel. The wheel is actually heavier than you think. Like, is there something else about that experience or something about just your being on the show that you want folks, and just something fun that people don't know about the show that might be interesting for folks?
Pat and Vanna are amazing.
Okay.
And I've heard people say, is Pat really, how is Pat? He was a very, very pleasant gentleman. And I think sometimes what we see is a version of him where he's probably on his fourth show for one day, and it's an all day taping.
Right.
So I can understand how he gets a little tired, grumpy. It's not,
happens to the best of us.
Absolutely.
Right?
But they are great people, and I just, if you've ever wanted to or ever thought about doing it,
right,
do it.
Do it. Yeah. Do it.
The odds of getting on the show, from what they say, are I wrote it down. It's 0.0006% chance.
That's not a lot of percent.
It's not a lot, but they picked me.
Yeah, they did.
So I say, just do it.
Yeah. Well, if you're out there in Chesterfield and you also want to be on Wheel of Fortune or whatever fun aspirational thing, I think that's one of the things to take away from this is like you've always been into these things. You enjoyed the show and finally you said, okay, fine, I'll go. It doesn't take much to put yourself out there a little bit, and amazing things can happen. That's awesome to me. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
I'll be honest. I've never wanted to be on Wheel of Fortune, but the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe that would be fun. Although I don't know. I'm good at Wordle, but maybe that's where I'll leave it. But thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's @ChesterfieldVA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield, Virginia, all one word. And on Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow us, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that you get your shows. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating and review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make suggestions, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That's Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. And lastly, you can check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us for more ways to connect with us here in Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent Media Services for all they do. My thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Newsletters to alerts, social media, the latest community news.
Welcome to the latest installment of This Week in Chesterfield.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.